Are there any other examples, similar examples, which you can, give to highlight how other contractors and consultants have been involved in developing the brief?
Well, contractors perhaps not, because they
Okay.
get involved at a much later date in the project, and usually not at brief development stage.
Okay. Okay.
Consultants, this was perhaps one of the best examples, but I would just like to add to your initial question about the briefs we've developed for Sunita and her expectations. And there's a third category of projects that we've done for Sunita, which is retail projects, where again we worked with her on their Yamini brand. We worked with them on their BQ brand, and other than her, we've also developed several. We worked with several retail brands like Aura, Be Home, and Fab India, to name a few, where one would say that our role as architects in developing the briefs have been great, in the sense that at times the client has approached us. Actually, in most of these cases that I just mentioned, the client has approached us and actually asked us to create a brand identity for them through our architecture. So even before we've started with the architecture itself, the actual site, we've worked with them through a 2 or 3 month intense process, trying to understand what their needs are, but more importantly, trying to understand where they see their brand new or established going, what are their aspirations, and help them create an identity that would best help them meet their aspirations, and a palette that can stand again for those aspirations. Um, so I think that is another very interesting category that we worked in, where brief development has played a huge role in the whole project.
So, how do you think, how is the involvement of the internal team at SJK in the brief development? Like, how many members are involved from your team? Like, considering, I mean, I think like there are about 20 to 25 members, and there's not, like, there is a bit of an hierarchy, but still the process, how is the process like?
So I think most of our team working on a particular project is very involved in the process of developing the brief, but more as a step that helps us understand the client requirements really deeply, because this is what in a way establishes the DNA for the project for us. Understanding what are the needs of a client helps us understand what are the area requirements, helps us understand what the overall space planning could look like. And as we had mentioned earlier on, the brief development phase sometimes goes hand in hand with the concept planning stage. So just space
Hmm.
planning and brief development sometimes go hand in hand. So it's important for every member of the team to be part of this whole exercise, because oftentimes we have this wish list, but really to assess whether it fits well into the available area, it needs to be assessed. Also, if it's a good fit, sometimes it may make sense but may not be a good fit. So all of that, each person of our office is involved in, the team that's working on the project.
And how do you think that the way the brief develops and the client's expectations during the design process are affected by the onslaught of technology, like with CAD and all the rendering software
I'm
sites,
not sure. Sarika, what do you feel? I don't think technology has affected brief development.
and or the expectations of the client, like does it have an effect on that?
We've been affected in other ways, but not at the stage of brief development, because really brief development emanates out of all the other things that we spoke about, the client's
Yeah.
need, the site
Okay. So
context, and so on and so forth.
And
okay.
of course,
So
prevailing bylaws, as in there's huge dependency on the prevailing bylaws. So the other consultant that you mentioned at the time of brief development. It's not at the time of brief development, because we said brief development goes parallelly with space planning.
Concept plan.
We do have the licensing architect or the licensing engineer or the person who's assisting on licensing be a very active part on this process, because we need to understand norms from them. And since most of the bylaws have room for being interpreted, there's a lot of deciphering that goes on with bylaws, which we are not in a position to do, and hence we have these expert consultants who come on board, and they play a very active role. Where there's when it's iterative for area, brief, and program, it's iterative at the same stage for confirmations on all applicable bylaws. So they go hand in hand at that time. So this one consultant plays uh, a big role in terms of we being dependent on them to have them vet our planning from a bylaw perspective.
Okay, okay. So
Because it's not so black and white, just,
right,
in
yeah.
terms of, it's not a direct thing. There's
Yeah.
always a room for
To,
interpretation, which only they know how to try and navigate through the different levels of officials that they have to go through.
okay,
But
okay.
under the complete legality of the laws.
Liaisoning architect, are they like individual, like studio based architecture practices, or are they individuals working, or are they in firms?
It
How do they?
differs. We have experienced working with both of them. They are not studio-based practices at all.
Okay.
They are hardcore people who are involved with city municipalities and working, because they have to be licensed for every single city. So if I'm in Bombay, I can't be functioning for an Ahmedabad project. I have to
Yeah.
have a local person who's licensed for Ahmedabad. So their day in and day out job is actually to avail permissions for projects. They may be doing other jobs as well, but they are not studio practices
Okay.
in the true sense.
So they are architects. They have a B.Arch degree, but they specialize in the legal arena of the
Sometimes they are
practice.
only civil engineers and they are
Okay.
licensed for this job and they fulfill the bracket. So they're not necessarily only architects. They can be civil engineers as well.
So now I would like to ask, so in the process, do you also interact with the other users of the building? So like I think in the factory of Karur, like because Sunita wanted it to be comfortable for the workers, did you have a process of interaction with them as well? Or in any other building, did you spend time with the actual users who will be inhabiting it? And
Oh, absolutely. In almost every project that we build, we end up first interacting with our client, but also eventually with the rest of their team, um, the head of departments, the end users, all of them, to try and get a much better handle on what is the real requirement and need of the project.